Fuck it, it's too risky. Just think about it, mate. All you have to do is convince me, and if you win, I would then personally talk to the boss. Yeah, easy to say, but what if you win? I have to forcefully resign after 1 month, and that also for what? A mere YouTube channel? Nah. Man, if you think it's a bad idea, let me hear it. If the topic is not worth it, why would I risk my job? And if it's that bad, what's the harm? You might get a chance of promotion. Okay, just one time. And if it's not good, don't ever talk about YouTube in front of me. Bet? All my life, mate. I don't know why. Why do I go along with you? 1948, Tokyo, Japan. After the defeat of Japan in World War II, not much was left in Japan to live in. The whole economy was collapsed, people were starving and saw the worst nightmare a man can ever see. It was a living hell. Despite that, Japan didn't stop. The country continued its journey, and even in the darkest time, people didn't lose hope. Instead, they tried to rebuild what they lost. Except for one man. On a rainy day of Tanagawa Canal, a person found two dead bodies of a man and a woman. After the police investigation, they found out the man's body was none other than 38-year-old famous author Osamu Dazai. If you don't know about Dazai, he is a well-known Japanese author, particularly known for his book A Setting Sun and No Longer Human, which are considered to be a modern classic. Also, the book No Longer Human has quite few adaptations, a graphic novel written none other than Junji Ito, a movie adaptation by director Genjiro Arato, and a first 4 episode of anime named Aoi Bagatu. All are deep dive in the philosophy and mind of Dazai.
Damn, so what the fuck happened, man? That even after having such wonderful career and such profound influence, he thought that it's better to end his existence rather than continue his journey?
Well, okay. You don't know about Dazai, right? But before we dive into Dazai's life first, it's important that we understand what he was like an author. And for that, let's look at the book No Longer Human.
The book of Dazai?
Yeah, the original book written by himself.
Okay, fine, go on.
No Longer Human. No Longer Human is a story about a man named Oba Yozu. At the time of World War II, Oba, being the son of a respected politician, he was born in a wealthy family. His family being important figure and having such high social status, his family was something people dreamt of having. But despite all that, Oba's life wasn't something you describe as easy and normal. Actually, it was far from that. Oba always had fondness for painting. If anything he wanted to become, it's being an artist. But the catch is, his father hated the idea and wanted Oba to follow his footsteps and also become a big politician. But seeing him painting, Oba being somewhat feminine, his father despised him. That hate and fear alienated Oba from expressing himself and find nearly impossible to understand those around him. He was not only oppressed by his father but also sexually abused by his servant, but decided reporting would be useless as his father would never believe him anyway. Later, the life of Oba is what you described as constant cycle of just pain and suffering. Nothing good, literally nothing good in his life happened that can give him meaning and hope to live. He never completed his university studies, instead descended into a vicious pattern of drinking, smoking and prostitution. Later, he met and had one night stand with a married woman, with whom he decided to commit double suicide by drowning. Though he survived this tragedy, but the same cannot be said for the woman. She died, leaving him with nothing but excruciating pain. Oba was filled with the guilt to the point he blamed himself for her death. After the trauma, he met a newspaper editor who was a single mother and tried to have a normal relationship with her, serving as a surrogate father to her little daughter. But later, he abandoned them as he thought that he don't deserve them, as his past trauma haunted him in his head. Since then, he believes that meaning of society for a person is to escape out of self-isolation. And then he started drinking heavily again. Later in his life, he fell into relationship with Yoshiko, a young naive woman who wants Oba to stop drinking. Thanks to Yoshiko's grounding influence, Oba finally found some semblance of hope and stopped drinking. Oba then married Yoshiko and became a manga artist, thinking that now, finally, he has found some meaning to live, and even his comics were selling well. But oh boy, the poor soul doesn't know that hell is about to fall on his head with its all might. One day, Oba found out that his comics weren't selling at all, and his wife lied to him that he isn't a successful artist. But the fact is, all the money he thought he was gained through selling comics was not his, but secretly earned by Yoshiko through selling her body sexually, so Oba can live happily. But after knowing the truth, his whole life turned upside down. He couldn't take the truth and then blame himself of Yoshiko's state, that he even attempted another suicide by morphine overdose, but he still failed. At the end, so much awful and terrible things happened to this man that he was no longer human. That was the last book written by Osamu Dazai. After that, one day, he committed suicide by drowning in river. This story should give you an idea why Dazai wanted to die, because all the story written in this book is inspired by Dazai's own life. To the extent, it won't be wrong to say that No Longer Human is his own autobiography in some sense.
So, I could say that all that fucked up shit really happened in reality, and that to just one man.
Well, I don't like to swear a lot, but yeah, just one fucking man.
Well, all that is fine, but what's the link between story and the title?
Wait, let me explain to the audience first.
But still, why? Why this all research? I don't get the point. Doesn't this shit stumble on everyone at some point?
I know.
And as you said, this shit also happened in 1948 and can even happen in present time. Perhaps not on the level of Dazai, but that does not mean everybody go nuts and skydive to freaking God, man. So what's the point, dog?
Let me finish you complaining, bitch. Then make a fair argument like a gentleman.
Sorry, fair. Let's hear your point.
Actually, the answer to your question is your own question.
What?
The part where you mention not everybody goes suicide. At first, I wanted to make a video about why people wish to die. What makes life so suffocating that people don't even want to consider living their life?
True. It's like they want to get out of some fucking nightmare. And dying is the only solution.
See, after reading about Osamu Dazai, one thing I realized, things were not as normal as they seem. More and more I researched, more and more I found that there are numerous people with life like a living hell. For them, everything was so fucked up in their life that from their perspective, nothing really makes sense. And then I realized that all along, I was asking the wrong question. It's not about why people want to die, but
rather, why people should even consider to live in this fucking nightmare.
wow, I had my doubts, but still, you have few brain cells left for functioning, man. Subarashi.
Fuck you.
Look at the present time. We can say that this is more true than ever before. Look at the world right now. War, poverty, high divorce rate, lack of mental health, bad parenting, loneliness, bullying, cyberbullying, you name it, bro. In today's time, more and more people are suffering from various issues. Maybe not as extreme as Dazai's, but still so awful you don't want to imagine. So I wanted to take deep dive in what makes people suffer that they choose death, and what makes people so fulfilled with their life that even after getting tossed around and dunked in the face so many times, they choose to live. That contradiction.
So, what's make your craziest thing that you can cover this vast topic in one go? It's like taking fight with Colossal Titan without even ODM gear.
I know. I soon realized this shit is way too deep to discuss in one stretch, and there are way more topics to discuss in this theme that even if we want to talk, we cannot discuss each and every aspect in just one go. So I decided to chop this topic in small segment and make some kind of podcast or discussion on these various topics and philosophies. I called this podcast Everything is Fucked.
Come on, smartass, get to the point. I'm here for debate, not lecture.
Okay, here we go. The time when you are a baby, unless by accident you met people like me who thinks kids are just reincarnation of devil, almost everybody around you adores you. Everybody tries to make you laugh, and if you cry, all, if not some of them, play with you, feeds you, or try any method, even making weird faces to stop you from crying. They ignore all your mistakes and celebrate each and every effort you make, even how small it can be. They matters. You matter. You are the main character of the story, that you are special. Then the reality hits you, and slowly, the people who try to make you laugh no longer care about you. Your parents remind you of your every mistake. The friends and family you loved and empathize with become just people you know. All the people around you become nothing more than just hollow connection for the sake of greeting and formalities.
Man, you are giving me existential crisis.
Look, I don't want to sound negative, but the fact is, even in this internet world, we are mostly disconnected with people. Eventually, we found out we are not special. The things we are good at, there is always someone who will better than us. Not that undermines your value, it just that the longer you live, the more you realize nothing is about you. You are not the main character, that you are just a side character in someone else's story. Finding out you don't really matter. And there are millions of people with same situation, and this fact is more true when you know that there are nearly 8 billion people like you.
No wonder people are protesting for abortion.
So, suicide. How it's connected, you will ask. The people who suicide are often the people who lost all connection from their friends and families, and they often say that no one cares about them. They think less of themselves, and even in the difficult time when you ask how you're doing, they will always reply, I am fine, neglecting their pain because for them, their problem don't even matter, saying no one's gonna care anyway. This feeling of hopelessness start to eat them more and more until they no longer care even for themselves.
I get it. That feeling of emptiness, you can't escape it. People may find different ways to distract themselves from loneliness. Still, it turns out to be useless. You might watch some movies, go to social media, watch some random TikToks, but after you're done with it, at night, when you are alone with yourself, you realize how truly alone you are. Having said that, yet I feel all that coping, self-doubt, meaningless thing you do to distract yourself are not worth your time. Listen, even if you are not being loved and have always been ignored by your peers, which is sad, but the thing is, neither anybody is entitled to love you, nor they are entitled to give their attention and time to you. People might like you, but for them, their own problems and life is exhausting, that they can even give time to themselves properly. So forget the thought that they will come to you, hear your problems and give affection you might deserve. Look, you are not in the wrong, just being little selfish and wish to be loved, but sooner or later you must realize and embrace the fact that there is no such thing as unconditional love. One can only get love if he offers something valuable to his fellow man, and it might be your time, affection, even small talk. Something has to be exchanged. In spite of all that, there are times that you might give every single drop of affection you'll have left to someone you want, and they might not reciprocate. With that, still, the only right thing you can do is ignore and maybe move on.
So what do you want to say? Just give it, but don't expect to receive, ignoring all the disappointing thing and let that emptiness build within you.
Well, quite the opposite.
But how? What are you saying might be the reason people are suiciding, my friend? By giving all but gaining nothing.
All I am telling you is to be good man. If you are being kind just because you want something in return, then it's not kindness. Just be self-aware that everyone might be ungrateful to you. Despite giving all your effort, they might be ready to stab you in the back.
Isn't that very cruel way to live life, man?
It would have been if all the people were nasty bitches. Okay, let me explain it by giving an example. Let's talk about Reagan from Mob Psycho 100.
Whoa, where Reagan come from?
Let me make my point. So first, time for some context. Mob Psycho 100 take place in a normal town with not so normal people. In this world, there are rare people gifted with psychic ability known as Esper. These Espers are commonly known for exorcism of supernatural phantom, aka ghost. And in this whole fuckfest, there is Reagan. Reagan is a man of focus, commitment, and sheer fucking will, whose main profession is scamming people. He was a normal day-to-day office worker until he decided to do something on his own. He left the job, rent a room for his business, and became a full-time esper. But the catch is, he don't have any power to detect ghosts, let alone exorcise them. So what he do? He scam people, pretending to be a psychic and taking advantage of scared people. Not to mention that Reagan is very charismatic guy. With his social skill, he can easily make fool out of people. Even with his natural talent, things started to take toll on him. And not all people are gullible. Again, he thinks of quitting. But out of luck, Mob showed up. Mob was an 8-year-old boy with unimaginable psychic abilities, but scared that he might not able to control them. So he comes to Reagan's thinking that he's an esper so he can help him. When Mob comes to Reagan for help to control his power, then Reagan thought Mob of nothing but a child with wild imagination, though he helped him anyway. Mob is opposite of Reagan. He might have power to destroy world, but being shy and timid lacks social skill. So Reagan told Mob that there are people who was born with natural talent, but that doesn't mean that they are special. For being admired, you have to work for it. Ultimately, being kind, that's what really matters. A kind word to impress Mob. Later, when Reagan realized Mob really have powers, then he gives Mob an offer to stay with him and help with the work. In turn, he will teach him how to control his powers, even though he don't have any idea and don't even have powers. Making Mob do all his work, taking all the credits to him, giving Mob only $3 a day, and just giving typical life advice just to mislead Mob into the thinking he is helping him. Now he can do all Esper's job without having any power just by a phone call to a Mob. After that, everything was working good. The business was booming. Reagan might deceive people left and right, but deep down he knows every bond he makes is a fake bond. Just like how he is a fake psychic. So even though he deceives people for money, but genuinely try to help those people who comes to him. Just like what I said in my previous statement. Reagan shows kindness in his own way to the people, but don't expect anything out of it. He has been come to the term that probably no one actually might like him. A quiet acceptance. So only Mob is there left for Reagan as a friend, even though he is just a student. So later in the show, when Mob tried to hang out with people to make new friends and to improve in life out of fear of losing Mob, Reagan scolded him by lying that he should not hang out with people, that they might take advantage of him because he is naive, disrespecting Mob and disrespecting all his effort to self-improve. Then after that, everything goes spiral for Reagan. After their argument, Mob left the job, ultimately leaving Reagan alone. Even after that, Reagan tried to reform himself. And finally, when Reagan tried to push his luck too hard, when he gets an invitation of reality shows as an esper and tried to exorcist a ghost out of handicapped man, even though he know he don't have any psychic power, on that show, Reagan got exposed in front of all world. All the people now know Reagan is nothing but a scam. It doesn't matter how much of a help Reagan might have been, but ultimately he lost everybody's trust. His business went south. He got an email from his family that how disappointed they are and they just want him to stop this and come home. This is the lowest point in Reagan's life, and this is where your points come in. These types of situations where one might lose his everything, when you might need someone's support, and if you don't have one, perhaps some of us will think of suicide. Reagan knows that all the people who came to him are because of his sweet words and his social skill. Nobody actually care about him. He don't worth a damn thing. Reagan believes that success, admiration and praise, you have to work for it, not something people are entitled to. That's the lesson he passed on to Mom. But here's the big problem for Reagan. Despite believing all that, despite having no power whatsoever, he somehow managed to find success as a psychic anyway. There might be social disconnect between what Reagan might believe and what he do, that he is a successful fake psychic. He left his job, set up a business and make it work. Reagan might not give himself credit for this, but those are some difficult things he achieved. People, especially kind people, sometimes they act harsh on themselves. You might have done some notable achievement yourself, but still you ignore it, believing it's worthless until it's great.
But even if you're able to encourage yourself, not everybody is selfish to the point they can live by themselves. It's so lonely.
I know, as well as Reagan did at that time. He knows he did bad things and he might have to live alone like this forever. But before that, he have to atone for his mistake. He called a press conference saying that he will apologize in front of all world. Then he did what he should do. On the press conference, Reagan looked in the camera straight as if he was talking to someone and said, "You have grown up, man." The best line he can come up with, saying that Mob is grown up better than he could ever had. That Mob wanted to change for better, and rather than supporting him and change himself for better, he tried to manipulate Mob. After that, he walked away from the press conference, and as he walking from side of the bridge, he sees Mob waiting for him. He stopped and asked, "Did you know?" Asking Mob, did he know that he is just a con man, not an expert, and how he always tried to manipulate him. At that time, he just wanted to judge by the person he thinks he deceived the most. And Mob answered, "I have always known that you are genuinely a good person," saying that it doesn't even matter. Reagan might think that he is not special and it is good to be humble. But as you said, that humility is self-destructive. Reagan built a business from ground up, helped people as he could even when he left his job and had nothing. Reagan might not think these are important, but we cannot deny how difficult it could be to accomplish these things. Same way, Reagan might not think too much when he was giving advice to 8-year-old boy, but those words changed Mob's life anyway. Maybe it was a luck that he found Mob at the right place at the right time, but it wasn't luck that he stayed around. The kind words which was given to Mob returned those kind words to Reagan. In that moment, Reagan found someone who truly valued him. It is good to think you are not special, and as I said, there might be time that nobody will be with you, and you might also feel lonely. At that time, take a deep breath and remind yourself that how you had been surviving this all time and the little accomplishment you have achieved throughout your lifetime. Because if you don't worth your accomplishment, then how can you expect others to see value beneath you? But, there is a saying, everyone wants a kind person in their life, but nobody wants to be that kind person for someone else. There was a time in my life when I thought I was alone, that nobody cares for me. But along the way of my life, I found more and more people with similar issues. Then I realized that even though I expect a lot from people, but there was never a time I genuinely did something for someone. And yeah, I'm not talking about a simple help and just giving random solution. Rather, just listening their problem. Be there for them. I don't know when it happened, but we started to become selfish. For us, our life became so important that we never thought to pause a moment and think that if your peers, family, friends does have any problem and might need you, does you are facing some issues and you might need someone. My whole point of telling Regan's story was even if it is your worst time in life, if there is a person with you, side by side, who truly value you, it is enough for a man to live another day.
Okay, I get it. Let me make your point. So lads, I would like to ask you a favor. I know you might be so busy with your work, but if you have smallest time to watch some random video, shorts or reel, it would be nice to call someone or meet someone, be there for someone, become mob for someone else's life. Who knows? Your such small effort might add a day in someone else's life. No one might truly value you, but make people know that you are there to value them. And who knows, someone might return those kind words to you. Well, it's not bad talking about some philosophical stuff like this.
I told you, dog. I told you. You are the only person in my life now who can come up with such topic. Others don't even try to think philosophically. They just care about what's trending. I can only talk such thing with you, mate.
Okay, fine. You don't have to sugarcoat it. You win.